In this video, I'm going to go through how you can set up and optimize your HubSpot pipeline in 2024. So this is going to be really useful if you're either migrating to HubSpot and you're looking to improve your sales process, or if you're already on HubSpot and you're looking to improve your results. So the first place that I would start is to analyze your current process. So what I like to do is to go all the way from your different traffic sources coming in, all the way down to a closed deal and have this mapped out in a tool like Miro. So what I mean by this is something that looks like this, where we have all the different traffic sources that are coming in for us, then how we're converting them into leads and what we're doing with those leads and how we're converting them kind of further down the funnel. And then all the way down to like an MQL. So when someone's coming in there requesting a demo, so we're marking them as an MQL. And then going through into the sales process, mapping out each different stage, having how likely it is that someone gets that stage and then closes, so having our probabilities, and then what we do when they either move into close lost or they move into being close won and a customer. So by having everything mapped out just means it's so easy for your team then to know exactly what to do and what to do at each different stage. And it just creates a lot of alignment across your team. So no one's kind of guessing about what's happening or no one's unsure of what happens, because as soon as you build things within HubSpot, it can be quite difficult to know how the different workflows map out together, where the traffic's coming from, what happens to someone who is a lead versus an MQL. And just by having everything mapped out, it just kind of gets rid of any of that where people aren't sure or don't know what to do at different stages. So that's the first thing I would have set up. I would also just have a chat with all the different stakeholders. So, rather than you thinking, okay, I'm going to change this whole process by myself, actually bringing in, all the different sales reps, sales managers, operations, marketing, and team as well. And just getting an understanding of what everyone needs from each different part of the process and what the ideal situation is. Because a lot of people just kind of get used to kind of how things are and they don't realize that things could improve. So just get people to think about what's actually the best process, what's really annoying, what takes up a lot of their time. You might find that your sales reps are spending half their time trying to find data on people. In fact, you could just automate that in the back end. So yeah, just do a bit of an audit, talk to people. It doesn't have to be a super in-depth process, but just understand what people are doing currently and then what's the ideal situation for them. I would also have a look at historical data. So have a look back at the different win rates, the sales cycle length. Again, you can break this down by industry or by like type of deal, and just look for any real bottlenecks that are stopping deals from moving from, someone saying they're interested to work with you all the way through to actually being close won, and just see where you can improve. So just from doing that, you should have quite a clear list of all the different things you can improve and make better. So the next thing I would do is just have a look at that ideal sales process. So the first thing I do is, if you're on HubSpot, make sure you're aligning to their methodology, because what you don't want to do is be battling the system and to be trying to like kind of hack your way around, because it makes your life so much more difficult. It's going to spend a lot of time and things are just going to break. So the first thing I do is just make sure you're using the life cycle stages correctly. So by default, a lead is anyone who's filled in a form on your website. And I would define that as someone who has not expressed sales interest and filled in a form on your website. So thinking things like lead magnets, downloads, or if you're prospecting, they're being added into HubSpot. They're having a chat. They haven't said, oh yeah, we're interested in buying. Just marking all those people as leads because they need to be nurtured. Then MQL is someone who has expressed sales interest. So again, someone who's filled in your demo request, your contact us form, or who's been talking to sales and has basically agreed to have a discovery call with them. I think for most businesses, that's probably the best place to start, to then create a deal with them and mark them as an opportunity. Because if someone's willing to take the time out of the day to have a call with you, they are interested in purchasing from you, even if it's not going to be a right fit in the end. So I'd have that is then marked as a deal, which will then obviously be added to the contact record and the company record, and then they can go through that the deal stage process. So the next issue I see with a lot of businesses is that they align their process to how they want to sell versus how the actual buyer buys your product or service. So if you think through all the different steps and sign-off stages that your ideal buyer will need to go through before they actually purchase your product or service, then this makes the pipeline creation a lot easier, because you can just map out all those different stages and then just work deals through those stages as they go through the process, rather than thinking about, okay, how do we want to sell it? Okay, well, we want to do this call here, and then we want to qualify them, and then we want to do this. It's thinking about the buyer first and thinking about the stages they need to go through to purchase, and then working backwards from there. And the next thing I do is have a look at the industry best practices. So things like bank qualification and all those different acronyms you can use. I would just use it to inform your process. Again, you know better about your process, and your buyer will have a certain process they need to go through to purchase. So use them to help inform, but you don't need to live or die by them. Then the next thing is to have a look at the different pipeline stages. So the first thing I'll do is I'd make sure that your pipeline stages are using action orientated words. So next thing we're going to look at is designing your pipeline stages. So the first thing I do is have action orientated pipeline stages. So things like contract signed, demo call booked, so it's very clear about what the action's been taken to get to that pipeline stage, rather than just make it, really like generic terms that no one really understands. It should be kind of clear actions that are taken throughout the process that move people along. The next thing I'll do is define the entry and exit criteria for each stage. So what actually allows on, and this is where it makes it a lot easier if you have this action orientated language, because you know exactly what someone has done to entered, and then for them to move on to the next stage, they'll need to take that next action. So it makes your life a lot easier. But I just have that listed out and just make sure that each sales rep is aware of what each criteria is and when they should move deals forward, because you don't want to skew your reporting by having deals like move forward 5 stages because sales reps got confused. Just make it really plain and clear for everyone, and then there'll be less issues that go on going forward. And I'd also assign probabilities to each deal stage. So if you're going to HubSpot, you go into your pipeline and then go through to the settings and then pipeline. You have deal probability here. So this is never like an exact science, but it can help with your forecasting just to have a probability. So you can have a look through and see if you do have that historical data, work backwards from there and build out the probability, or just have some kind of generic best guesses, because with any forecasting it is a bit of guesswork as well as a science. So just work through that, and it's useful to have that probability there. Then the next thing is around data collection and integration. So just making sure that we're collecting key info at each stage. So what I like to do, so you can see conditional stage properties here, is at each stage, I like to update the deal amount and the close date. So the reason for this is that, obviously you won't know the full deal amount when the appointment's been scheduled in, but you can have a bit of a guess based on, the company size and what they've said that they're interested in. And again, with the close date, it's going to change throughout the process. So, and both those things are going to change throughout the process. So making sure that we're updating at every stage is really useful for forecasting. And also, just having those deal amounts in early can just kind of help the sales reps kind of visualize those deals as well, and kind of help them prioritize which deals they should focus on. Because if there's a deal that's worth, $1 million, let's say, to you versus a deal that's worth 10 grand to you, then it's going to help the sales reps know exactly which ones to focus on and put more of their energy into. So just go here, edit properties, add dependent properties, and then we're going to want deal amount, tick that to be required. And then we're going to want the close date as well, if that's required. Apply logic. So anytime a deal goes in to this stage, you have to update the amount and then the close date as well when they think it's going to close. So this will be really useful. And I'd add that into each different deal stage property. Probably it wouldn't need to be for appointment scheduled. I do once the appointment's been scheduled in and then they move through into the next stage, then having that updated at each different stage can be really useful. Then make sure you've got tasks and follow up with cold deals. So one of the things that's really going to kill your pipeline is just having deals sat in stages for ages with no real clear like next action, or the sales rep kind of goes, oh, well, they've gone a bit cold. I've got this 5 other deals which are warm. I'm going to focus on them. And of course, they probably want to focus on the deals which are the hottest, but you would make sure that you're following up the cold deals because there's a lot of money there. So I would recommend having workflows set up so that if a deal has been sat in a certain stage for, let's say, 2 weeks, a month, 3 months, 6 months, that you're sending a task to the deal owner for them to follow up with that. And yeah, you can set reminders as well using that. So it would just mean that the sales rep, when they go home in the morning, like let's say 3 months after a deal's gone cold, they'll email them and it might be that something's changed internally and then that deal can move forward. And it just means there's like a nice process rather than people like having to remember, or like, being brought up in a meeting like, oh, what's happened to this deal? And they're like, oh, I'm not really sure. It's like, okay, well, I followed up with them. They said they're still waiting on this person or whatever. And then that info could be added into the deal as well. And then, yeah, updated deal amount, close date as regularly as possible. So highly recommend getting that set up. And then finally, reviewing, optimizing. So with any pipeline and any setup, it's going to evolve over time and things will need to be tweaked. It's never like you're going to set it up once and it's going to be perfect forever. So make sure that you're doing regular pipeline reviews with the team. So both sales team, marketing, operations, and leadership team should all have input here in terms of how the pipeline's being used, the reporting on it, if anything could be improved. I'd have KPIs for effectiveness. So let's say you look at your pipeline and go, okay, well, our main problem is, we get people in, they're really interested, but then they go cold at this stage. So let's have a KPI around improving this. Like, what can we do? Can we have some more assets for marketing? Can our leadership team get involved at this stage to help move it forward? Can our operations team pull in some more data to help us make more effective communication, that type of thing? And then finally, I would have win-loss reporting for your deals. So again, once a deal moves into closed lost, if I go back to my large one here. So a deal moves into closed lost, and then we want some reporting here. So we want both the reason. So I like a drop down. So having, like, let's say they stick with the status quo, they've gone with a different product, just so that we can bucket it. Then also having a detail field, which is like a multi-line text for the sales rep to add in some more info into why it's moved into closed lost. And this can just help improve the rest of your business. So your marketing, operations, obviously leadership team as well is useful for them to know. And it's like, is there anything we can do to improve it so that we're not losing deals to competitor X, or do we adjust our pricing, or that type of thing. And then same with close one, we can have some reporting back into the team of what's been the most effective thing that's moved this deal into close one, and then again report that back into the team. It's really useful info to have.